mischievous Mark Ginocchio, and I own every issue of Amazing Spider-Man, Amazing Fantasy number 15, and all of the Amazing Spider-Man annuals, which I say do not count. I also own a plethora of variant issues of this Volume 7 rundown that we're going to be discussing this week. And let me tell you, they're great. I don't know if they count, but man, I just love to ogle them. And, you know, ogling counts. So I'm going to say yes, they count.
The act of ogling counts.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
it. All right. Well, I'm Dapper Dan Gavoston, and I own every issue of Amazing Spider-Man as well, including the annuals, which I still say count, and I ogle them sometimes. They're not quite as nice as the sort of modern art that we're getting on these Volume 7 variants, but, you know, like, they've got their place. But also for me, Amazing Fantasy 15 remains a fantasy.
And that's a shame. But welcome to the Amazing Spider Talk, the show where two fans and collectors uncover the strange, fun, and fascinating history of the Spider-Man comic universe. Thanks for joining us for this review episode of Amazing Spider-Man Volume 7.
I appreciate the level of care that that's a shame that was afforded to me in that moment.
We have to work our Seinfeld reference in every episode, so that was my. There
you go. All right, I'll take it. Today on the show, Mark and I are going to be discussing Amazing Spider-Man Volume 7, number 11, which most people are going to know as Legacy Issue number 975. Every year we get one of these milestone issues because 25 issues happen, and we get a $7.99 comic book, which seems kind of cheap for one of these given that the base price of comics has gone up, but the less said about that, the better. This issue was written by Joe Kelly. The cover features artwork by Pepe Larraz and Marte Gracia. The issue contains two stories. The first story, Broken Mirror, features pencils by John Romita Jr., inks by Scott Hanna, and colors by Marcio Menyz. The second story, Broken Man, features artwork by Pepe Larraz and colors by Marte Gracia. Both stories feature letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. This issue was first released on September 3rd, 2025. Mark, hit us with a recap of the events of Amazing Spider-Man Volume 7, number 11, and Legacy 975.
You bet, Dan. Although I will just add that I cannot wait for 14 issues from now when we get like a double size number 25, which will be $9.89. Perfect appetizer for issue 1000, right?
I'm surprised that hasn't the cover for that hasn't been solicited yet.
Triple foil poly bag is what I say.
There you go.
Here we go. As has been the case often in this run, we open with a flashback and a young Peter in a smelly Captain America costume. Actually, it's a fresh one, but no matter. Uncle Ben thinks he looks ridiculous, but Aunt May thinks they should just let Peter be Peter. Flash forward, and a forlorn-looking May glances at old photos of the family and reveals that she still has young Peter's cap costume stowed away. Rick, her gentleman caller, comes calling to take May for a walk. That brings us back to the rooftop, where we last left this story with the imposter Peter and the imposter Spider-Man. We get some journaling to fill in for Spider-Man's narration. The imposter Spider-Man continues to press this Peter about his motivations, but is essentially told it's none of your beeswax, with a little bit of an F-bomb in there. The two throw down, and Spidey starts journaling about wearing Spidey's skin and how disoriented it is, which gives us some context as to who he might be. Fake Peter comments on fake Spidey's different build and lack of spider sense. Meanwhile, Spidey calls the fake Peter a dullard. Maybe it's Andrew Cuomo as Peter Parker? Because Andrew Cuomo sucks, in case you needed to be confirmed. Yes, we're not a political podcast. Anyway, as the fight continues, fake Peter reveals his chasm powers, and now we know it's Ben Reilly. Ben says he's made Peter's life better. In his reckless anger, he throws Spidey into a brick wall and nearly hurts a number of innocent people on a nearby roof, but is only spared the tragedy by the fake Spidey's quick thinking and even quicker webs. Spidey flees the scene just in time for Felicia to show up and confront them. We'll follow up with them soon, but first it's over to Harlem to join Tombstone Tombstone wants to know when Shocker is going to stop being such a slacker and get back out on the streets, despite his grievous injuries. I mean, this is the workplace in the year 2025, right? A new masked villain who seems to be working for Tombstone, named RX, is able to help Shocker heal his wounds quicker. Is his name pronounced RX, or should we call him Prescription? Either way, Tombstone gives him a week of unpaid healing time for his troubles before the Hobgoblin, Wings and all, shows up. He wants an alliance, but Tombstone is uninterested, so see you in the funny pages. That's from me. I don't know. They don't actually say that here. Ben and Felicia meet at the Grand Tavern, which must be what gentrification has done to the bar with no name. He lets Felicia know Peter's alive due to their clone senses, and we get our first reference to 8 deaths in this run. He then brings Janine back, and Felicia quips about the redhead thing. Ben doesn't know who is masquerading as Spider-Man, and he doesn't care. He does question why Peter isn't back yet, and whether he even wants to come back, so he sticks Felicia with the check, and off he goes. But no tax on tips, right, Dan? We got some cutaways to fake Spidey and May, journaling all the way. Narration says Spider-Man cannot let his animal instincts take over. He can't do that to Peter. He's here to save the dream. Then his mask glides off, and Norman Osborn is indeed Spider-Man. Take a bow, Dan. You got it. As we fade,
calling it for like what, 2 years now that we would get to this point.
There we go. As we fade away on him, we close in on a mysterious space alien being who says "Sic Semper Monstrum." I don't know what that means, but I'm sure, Dan, you have the translation.
I do. We'll get to it later in the show.
Oh my God. But wait, there's a lot more. We have some chilling looking space scenes courtesy of Pepe Larraz, and indeed, we're in location far from Earth. At least Pepe didn't do any cooking this time. It's just space, so it looks great. But it's the cooking that Pepe loses me. Anyway, we close in on Peter, who's huddled in a cave looking terrified. He's bearded and emaciated, and eventually an apparition appears. It's Nicodemo, sure, and he addresses Peter as the Prince of Steel Silk as a spaceship appears overhead. All right, we rejoin Peter weeks later, and he's on board the Beacon, a self-sustaining deep space research vessel. Peter is in a spacesuit, showing off his strength, but oops, they turned off the gravity, and he's taunted by an alien named Xanto. I think the X is silent, and it sounds like a Z, I'm guessing. Peter's not quite as strong as he wishes he could be, but at the very least, he's recovered from his weeks of near starvation. Xanto looks like he's putting a symbiote in a test tube as he and Peter chit-chat. Peter has been running tests on himself to confirm his proof of life, because otherwise, this planet is the stuff of dreams. They're not eating pizza, but it's still a delicacy, so clearly it's not Canadian bacon either. But then Peter talks about Two Boots, and suddenly his pizza credibility goes out the window.
Hey, I like Two Boots, Mark. Okay, it's Louisiana style, but it's a unique spin in New York City.
Peter has lived in New York his entire life, and he's gonna cite Louisiana style pizza chain as his beacon of pizza. Come on, man.
All right, fair enough. Dude, I don't know. Maybe he likes the cornmeal.
As the kids say on the internet, Dan, do better. We also learn that Peter keeps working to get stronger. Peter ponders a time when he'll be back home web-slinging again, but in the interim, he decides to go on a bit of insomnia-fueled cleaning session on the lower decks. Unfortunately, he encounters a bunch of sentient beings trapped in cubes. Peter wants Xanto to let them out, and Xanto warns that pets get beds, animals get cages. It's true. Our dogs live in our beds, Dan. It is what it is. So Peter had better choose his next action wisely. Peter chooses to retain his dignity by squarely punching Xanto, and a pursuit between the two ensues. Xanto does everything he can to stop Peter, including throwing Peter's reluctance to go home back at him. Peter throws on Xanto's new flex suit, which will make that one variant cover I got worth $1 billion one day. I said $1 billion with a B. Xanto hits Peter with a blast that destabilizes the suit and locks Peter up as Peter throws a tech bro jab at Xanto. and countering with his own unique manipulation of the suit's powers. He takes out Santo and then turns his attention to the captured beings on the lower decks. He lets them out and introduces himself as Peter. Leading the way is Rocket Raccoon, a creative we've been told is called Simbi, and some other monsters who look like they are relieved to be let out of the back of RFK Jr.'s trunk, or even the top of his station wagon. I mean, maybe he went swimming in toxic sewage with them. We don't know, but you can't get vaccines anymore. And woohoo, we're about to get a team up. Oh, and Boomerang's back. That's in another story, but we'll get to it maybe. I don't know. Are we getting to it, Dan? I don't know. It's up to you.
We could get to it. I don't know. I feel like you and I had a conversation about Boomerang coming back just a few issues ago, but I guess this is properly an Amazing Spider-Man. He's back?
He's back. He's back in Pog form and in comic form. Anyway.
Okay, fair enough. Yes. Hey, Mark, that recap, I feel like if you had read that recap to me like 6 months ago, I would have told you this book had lost its mind. Like, what in the world is this comic book? Why are we reading this thing? And yet, Mark, getting right to our overall thoughts of this issue, I really dug this issue. I had a great time with it. And I don't know if I'm crazy or not. How about you?
I mean, I can't confirm crazy because I might be crazy too. You might think I'm crazy, Dan.
Crazy together.
But
Mark.
as Rick Ocasek would say, I don't know what he would say. Baby, won't you drive my car? No, that's the Beatles. Anyway, no, I thought this was a lot of fun. Like, I felt like this is keeping this very bizarre story moving. The reveals are making sense. The reveals are happening at a reasonable pace where, I'm not sitting there being like, oh, come on, just tell us what's happening. There are mysteries, but the mysteries are moving. We're getting these two worlds of Spider-Man. And I don't know if it's going to be like this every issue going forward, but I kind of like both, and we'll get into the details of this, but the distinct art styles and just kind of the tone of the stories even seem a little bit different. Like, for a very high concept issue of Spider-Man, this is really accessible and fun, so maybe I'm crazy. Maybe you should yell at me on the internet. I don't know. I don't really go on the internet anymore, so I won't see it. So have at it.
Yeah, I to answer your question, my understanding is every other issue is going to switch between the stories of the Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I think it was originally announced that JRJR will be handling all of the Earth stuff and Larraz will be handling all the space stuff. And I still think that's mostly true, although we found out that Ed McGuinness is doing the next issue, which is solidly Earth stuff.
Right.
So who knows? And in some interviews, Joe Kelly has said that this is going to continue to February, which I was kind of shocked to hear that, frankly, because I feel like we are so we're just at a starting point of something that really feels like it could be a very deep, long story of Peter returning back to Earth and these Spider-Men messing up or improving his life in New York City. If you were to tell me there was a 30-issue spectacular or superior run that was going to kick off here, I would go, okay, there seems there's a lot to unpack. So February, that's 10 issues from now.
Yeah.
And I'm shocked by that. But I'm also hey, you know what? If you can move through this at a clip and tell it with the efficiency of that first arc that we got here with the Hobgoblin, then so be it. I am on board for this, because the thing that this issue, I know it's a double-sized issue, but boy, it took me back to the 1980s, Roger Stern comics of Spider-Man. I mean, maybe it's specifically Roger Stern, Tom DeFalco, and we could talk about the specifics of it later, but when the Hobgoblin showed up on Tombstone's balcony, I was like, where are we? Is this the late 80s? These are the kind of little check-ins that we used to kind of effortlessly get that kept all the plots alive and cooking while some other story was going on. And yeah, we've got far-flung Peter in outer space stuff that is very much not that era's kind of thing. But I feel right now Joe Kelly is really juggling so many plot lines, and I'm not feeling like it's scattered all over the place and that I'm losing focus on what this book is about, which is its main characters. And he's really wisely, and I think smartly, divided this stuff up over the past, however many issues of his run. I'm building on what Wells and Spencer did. Like, I think there's a really cool, like, tight story to be found in the middle of this. The stuff that gives me more worry is like the Nico Demu stuff and anything with like Hellgate and the sort of like fantastic elements of all of that. How all of that and the secret scrollsiness or not secret scrollsiness of that and how that comes together is still like a big, blinking red, don't touch this for me.
Yeah.
But man, I am having a great time going on this journey so far. So I'm thrilled. I can't wait to read the next thing. Let's talk about this particular issue, starting with the cover. I think we've got an instantly iconic cover here of the two Spider-Men on it. This feels like even like Clone Saga era, where you've got the text bubble that's like, who are the two Spider-Men and like what big, mystery or new status quo was going to be here. This feels like a proper big issue with some interesting stuff going on. Man, I wish the Spider-Man on the cover was the costume that Norman was wearing, because it's just a generic Spider-Man suit.
Right.
But other than that, this is a really cool Larraz cover. And I'm excited to see what other ones he has coming up down the line. Now, I wanted to get a bunch of variants of this, but due to reasons in my sort of like comic book life, I wasn't able to make that happen. I really wanted that promotional cover. Mark, this is where we're going to debut a new segment I'm calling Mark's Variant Brag Hour. So go ahead, Mark. What did you pick up?
I do want to start by saying, but before I brag about the variants, I would go as far as to say that this might be the best regular Spider-Man cover, like non-variant cover that we've gotten since we've started this podcast.
Wow, that's a lot.
I mean,
that, yeah.
Maybe the exception would be the Gleason cover from Volume 5 with like the white, black and white sketching and like that. That's obviously a banger. Yeah. But like this is a brilliant and, like you said, instantly iconic cover that also like doesn't feel like a gimmick in its own right. It's like this is what's in the comic, to a degree. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there and give my hot take. I got 4 different variants on this one here, Dan. But I did not get the one that you were like, hey, if they have extra at the shop, can you get me one? And it was the Pepe Larraz promo cover. I don't know why.
We talked about like 4 months ago when that was first revealed.
I don't know why I didn't ask for it, Dan. I just because I have as everyone knows who listens to this show regularly over the last 6 months, I have a new comic shop that opened up earlier this year. I finally achieved the dream where the owners of the shop and I, we talk regularly, we email, they know I do this show. I walk in, it's like Norm and Cheers. It's a dog eat dog world. And I'm wearing Milk-Bone underwear. I mean, that's the scene right now in my comic book shop.
Boy, you painted it.
And they get me whatever cover I want. They're sometimes oh, do you want to order this one? It's like a 1 in 100 one. I'm like, no, I don't want to pay $50-something for a variant. Not right now.
They know a mark when they see one. I mean that both ways.
I mean 100%. With that said, I got the Alex, if you want to pull some visuals here, that would be appreciated. I got the Yoon new costume variant. I got the Benjamin Sue Simbi variant. I got
first appearance of Simbi.
Yeah, I got the Bengal Amari variant with it's another new character. I think is it RX who's on the cover? I forget who's on the cover, but there's another new character. And then I didn't even order this one, but I was in the shop and they had one more left, and I picked it up. It's the Sanford Green variant, which is kind of like a spin on ASM 100. with like Spider-Man kind of like crawling down through like a black and white webbing. There's no like, floating heads of guilt or shame or villains or anything, but it's just him like crawling through like black and white webbing. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's an attractive cover. What, it spells out Amazing Spider-Man 975 in it?
Correct. So I was just like, I'll grab it. Like, and when I went to grab it off the rack, I was like, am I good to take this? And my guy was like, yes, we still sell comics here. I'm like, okay, I'm just making, I'm like, I'm already pulling 3. I didn't know if there was a limit. He's like, no, just buy it. I'm like, all right, we're good. So, anyway, so that's it. That's $7.99 times 5 if you include the actual A cover. Like you said, there's a Mark born every minute, and there was a Spider-Man 94 that dropped this week, and I got like multiple variants of that one. So like, I'm just like, don't tell my wife.
And you make fun of me for getting back issues and saying I'll never get Amazing Fantasy 15 because that's how I spend. But
I got Amazing Fantasy 15.
Yeah, clearly you can do both. All right. So, speaking of Amazing Fantasy 15, let's talk about Aunt May in this comic.
First appearance.
No. There you go. Something I don't have.
There you go.
So Aunt May is the first appearance of anybody in this issue. We get a flashback, and then we kind of catch up with her sort of as a reflection of that flashback in modern day. And just starting off, the flashbacks have been a recurring motif throughout, and I actually think there's an interesting moment later in this issue that involves a flashback that we'll talk about. But is this the earliest flashback we've gotten yet? I mean, Peter's in preschool here. He's like my son's age, and frankly, Aunt May and Uncle Ben are like looking good, like they're ready to go out on a date. I think this is the youngest we've ever seen Peter. Am I right?
It may be. In fact, I was like kind of questioning. I was like, was he an orphan at this point? Like, I thought he was orphaned at what, 5? Wasn't that the?
Yeah. That's interesting. Maybe they were babysitting. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, like I definitely was like, this feels younger than it should be. But yeah, so I would say yes to your query there.
One of the interesting things I thought about the art in this is like, I don't know that I've ever seen Richard or Peter's like familial resemblance to Ben show up in the artwork before, but like JR really delivered on it here. Like Ben looks like a heavier Richard. And I just think it's such a great touch because like the design of Ben doesn't scream, this is a Parker. And here looking on the page, it just jumped out at me that he took the Richard or Peter Parker model and changed it just slightly to produce this younger Uncle Ben. And that's such a thoughtful approach to it rather than going back to the sort of classical Uncle Ben to like de-age him in that way and make it much more Parker oriented. And that's the kind of touch I feel like a sort of like legacy creator like JR brings to it. I often don't even think about Uncle Ben as a Parker, but then seeing him here on the page, it's like, oh yeah, there he is right there.
Yeah, no, it was, probably some of the better JR art that we've gotten in a while, just in terms of like him, I mean, I love JR, but like, I shouldn't like make it sound like a backhanded compliment, but like, I don't know. It does seem like a lot of thought and effort was put into this. I would also say not to like jump ahead per se, but like I love the bookend of starting this issue off, not just with the flashback, but with May in real time, and she's up kind of dealing with her quote unquote insomnia. And like when we get to the Peter story, it's his insomnia that like kind of leads him to the discovery of all of the beings. So like I just like the bookend of that. Like we're when you do stuff like that, I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not gonna dismiss that, but like it seems like May is going to factor in prominently, or it's again like I feel like there's going to be a payoff to what we're getting here, because like I feel like it's too intentional to have that kind of mirror beginning and end here. without it going somewhere. So I like it makes me want to actually care. It's not just like, oh, here's the obligatory flashback, and like we're like going back to the Nick Spencer run. Here's the obligatory Craven scene, and like where tell me when we get to the fireworks factory. Like here, it's like, okay, where are we building with this? Because there's clearly something going on that's even deeper than what we're seeing initially on the page. So I appreciated it from that level as well.
I think you're 100% right. And I actually hadn't put together the insomnia thing. That's a really astute observation. I do think, again, this is going to be wildly speculating, but I think you're onto something here, which is like whatever Peter needs to do to get stronger, I think is going to have to do with Aunt May.
Yeah.
Right. I think there's something about what the first arc of this story set up, and the reunion between Peter and Aunt May, and Peter learning whether it's to like have more gumption, so to speak, or to rely on his family to help, and his found family and Norman and Ben to help him get stronger. Like I think there's something in that that Aunt May is going to play a key role in. But getting back to the flashback, as a father of a preschooler who's currently going through his like strong superhero phase, like I really loved seeing this. Like Ben has a cape now and an Iron Man costume, and he's always playing with his Spider-Man toys in the bath. And I don't know if I told the story, but we went to a comic book shop, and he asked the store owner if he could get Max Dillon. Like he's like really deep in his like sort of every night we read an Amazing Spider-Man comic, and he begs for it to the point that I'm like, can we take a break on Spider-Man?
You're
like,
living the dream right now, man. I love it. I love it. I mean, for me, the superhero is like every train that ever existed. Which is fine, but
yeah, my son also had a train phase, okay. But your son is deeply locked in the train phase.
It's not going. Yeah, we're beyond phase. It's what it is.
It is train. It is train. It is train. I also really liked May's final note about like Peter growing up and the irony, that he doesn't ever really quite grow out of that role. Speaking of growing out of your childhood roles, which like for us, I think. I often feel like sort of the sting when I have like to explain what the show is, what we're doing. Like, it's about Spider-Man, and I collect comics, and I feel immediately kind of like sophomoric or like a child, explaining that to other adults. Like, oh yeah, you're managing your 401ks, and I'm buying issues of Marvel Team Up, or whatever it is. You could do both if you're Mark Ginocchio, yeah, I don't know. To me, there was an immediate parallel of like, hey, sometimes you just don't grow out of the things that like caught your love when you were a child.
Yeah.
Did you have any feeling about that?
Oh, I mean, I think it just captures that perfectly. No notes to what you just said.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, okay, so you got to introduce a new segment. I'm bringing back an old favorite segment.
All right.
To the show, and it is the segment I'm calling Absolutely Unhinged Speculation Hour. And
I feel like we should just ring the Kindred alarm just for old time's sake, but I mean, it may not be totally appropriate, but whatever. It's up to you.
Okay, so this is actually not my speculation.
But you're sharing it, Dan. So.
I'm sharing it because I think there's something really interesting here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Chris Sutcliffe, who is one of the constant members of the Slack, and runs the Every Spider-Man Ever YouTube channel, which is really great. If you haven't watched it, you should subscribe there and check it out. He does these like weekly short YouTube videos that tell you every Spider-Man comic that's coming out that week. And it's super helpful tool for me before I go to my shop to figure out what they didn't pull for me. Anyway, he presented us with this Captain Kintsugi theory on the Slack and immediately caught all of our attention. Now, I know Captain Kintsugi is not in this issue.
Shocking.
Yes, shocking. And he didn't show up to go, I'm Captain Kintsugi.
Captain Kintsugi,
Yeah. So Chris was listening to one of our recent review episodes, and it like whatever we said triggered this thought in him. Okay. And it's this also, I think, is weirdly related to that Peter wears a Captain America costume in this issue, and has been repeatedly shown playing with Captain America toys throughout the previous issues. And there's even the statement here about May about growing up and shedding that role. And it got Chris to thinking, okay, and I'll say this, I don't necessarily agree with this, but I think there's something here, which is his theory was that Captain Kintsugi, who has been repeatedly stated in every one of his appearances, is young. All the other characters keep repeating, he's young, he's young, he's young. And what has been a core facet of this title since the very beginning of this run? Flashbacks to youthful Peter Parker, who is very into Captain America. So he theorized, what if as some way for Spider-Man to kind of get back to Earth involves him, for whatever reason, traveling through time or reassembling parts of himself, the Kintsugi thing, and this is a youthful version of Peter Parker living up on his fantasies of being Captain America and joining in to stop whatever a threat is there. Mark, do you have any reaction to this? It's completely unhinged.
It's completely unhinged, but I don't necessarily disagree with it. So
look at this! Look at this!
Well, I mean, it's founded in something. I mean, to be fair, I also at one point was like, maybe Dan is onto something by thinking that Kindred is actually the combined vision of Mary Jane and Peter, and based on the clothing that they wore in Amazing Spider-Man number 143. You made a point. You can make anything work.
It's better than what we got, which was nothing.
Right. But that's
like that design was never explained. Yeah.
I mean, yes. I mean, we need to see. I need to be like, how does the mechanics of this actually work? Like, is this like some kind of?
I don't think there are any mechanics. And I'll say for the record, I think Captain Kintsugi has not been portrayed as someone that looks like Peter Parker. Like, no. I think he looks Japanese, right? Now, okay, cultural sensitivity around white men pretending to be Japanese is not something that Marvel has shied away from in recent history. But
not so brazenly.
Right. They wouldn't make someone who did that the head of their comics brand, but no,
it's not like you put it on the job application, Dan. I mean, whatever. Anyway,
yeah, right.
Keep going.
But at the same time, like I don't know that I think it's Peter more than I think that there is an intentional connection being made between Peter's fondness for Captain America as a child and a sort of youthful soldier wearing a Captain America, rip off or whatever, like reconstructed suit here. I would not be surprised if there was some connection that Kelly eventually sews together there.
And I think that's the fairer point. I think these things are all clearly going to relate in some way, like, between the Captain America and the Aunt May stuff and the Insomnia. Like these are, and this is frankly what I'm liking about this run as opposed to past ones where I feel like we're getting breadcrumbs. You know what I mean? Like this is the random, somewhat unhinged stuff that's just showing up in this comic. It does seem to be relating to other things and leading somewhere. I mean, so I don't know if it's going to be exactly what Chris is speculating here, but like, I think it matters that young Peter is specifically masquerading as Captain America, and yes, that Captain Kintsugi is some kind of variant of Captain America. So, I appreciate that. I don't want my time wasted. Like I don't want to be sitting here being like, why does this character have the shield, and why they do? And it's like, there you go. So anyway,
my response to that too is this is all also deep background stuff. Like you don't need to speculate about any of this to just get the story that we're reading
right
on the page here. Like if it ends up coming back around, like I think the average reader is not going to pick up on this stuff at all. If there is something to be picked up on here, because we could just be overanalyzing it ourselves.
Yeah,
which certainly guilty of that in the past.
We've been guilty of that, but like I feel like if it didn't truly matter, then Peter could truly be anybody, right, in these issues, and we're getting a very specific, like, it's so specifically Captain America. May specifically has the Captain America suit in her drawer. You know what I mean? Like, this is very intentional. Whether it pays off, that's a whole other story. But like, these are intentional choices that are being amplified by, through each like sequence of art here, further like advancing it. So like you have to like look at it and actually and analyze. It's not like we're just picking stuff at random and being like, well, we're going to dive deeper on this. You know what I mean? So anyway, I
absolutely.
I think there's where there's smoke, there's fire is the bottom line.
Well, now that we've gotten through the first page of this double-sized comic, let's
pick it up.
Yeah, let's move on. Although I do think there's important stuff on the next page, like Rick, who shows up. And frankly, Mark, is this guy a stalker? Like, the way this is framed, it's like he was right outside her place at 1 a.m., like prepared for her text to go south so he could burst through the front door, which, like, I guess he has keys. He's like, it's like, go to sleep, dude. What are you doing out wandering at 1 a.m. in the morning? But more to the point, I think it's clear that this relationship has, if you were ever in doubt before, now we've moved into the romantic realm. So make this suitor number 4 for Mary Jane, or for Aunt May. I guess Mary Jane maybe 2. Again, I also feel like in regards to that, I feel like we're moving towards some huge status quo shift for May. Like, Rick is like encouraging her to change her approach with her nephew, being like, he's continually disappointing you. Like, even when things rebound, it's still a disappointment. You need to do something new. And I don't know if that means like she's exiting this book for good or what. I mean, even before Peter left for the other side of the universe, he wasn't great about checking in with May. And now it really appears like he's completely like checked out of her life. But regardless, May says, I'm bringing a pillow to Rick's place. Either she's sleeping on the couch with that pillow, or that's a gesture for I'm spending the night. And so we are solidly in imagining Aunt May sleeping with J. Jonah Jameson Sr. and now Rick. Maybe we'll get another full splash page of that. And I just think that there's a nice bit. You mentioned the Cap uniform in her memory box, but like as she's talking about Rick and he's encouraging her to change her approach to Peter, she's sliding the lid back on that box, which to me says like, I'm relegating this stuff to the realm of memories and maybe ready to move on. I thought that was a beautiful way of kind of like conveying that in a subtle way.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of read on this Rick relationship or Aunt May or anything like that?
Nothing beyond what you said. Why don't we keep moving here in the effort of efficiency here?
Sure. So let's pick up with Imposter Peter and Spider-Man as they clash on the rooftop. Obviously, your recap covered what goes on here, and safe to say our theories from the previous review were correct as to who these people are, which I still think makes it a very exciting sequence, even if the reveals were not maybe so out of nowhere.
Right.
I think the reveals of them were still really cool, how it was done. And I thought this sequence of them on the rooftop and then their individual stories were all very compelling. Mark, any thoughts about all of this stuff?
I mean, mostly echoing what you're saying, but yeah, I felt like, certainly like the visual of like Ben becoming Chasm was really good. I just like the banter between the two. I mean, like this was very good in terms of like kind of expository, telling us things that we have kind of talked about a little bit in the last couple of issues, like where I've been like, specifically like the last issue, like when you were talking about Norman Osborn as a potential Spider-Man fill-in, and I was like, I don't know, physically does it work? And Ben is like, well, your build is different and you don't have spider sense. It's like, okay, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of addressing all of the 800-pound elephants or gorillas or your choice of animal here about what we've been seeing, and I thought that was a smart way to kind of advance and getting to the reveals in this issue, is to kind of like lay out, okay, we know they're imposters, but like, who could they possibly be? Is it more clones? Is it more this? Is it more that? And I felt like they did a good job kind of just peeling back the layers, both with exposition and then with the actual visual reveal of both. I liked these scenes greatly. I liked fake Spider-Man's journaling narrative. I think that really kind of takes you out of, because we really haven't had that character's voice at all in this comic since this whole status quo began. So I felt like doing it that way really like kind of started to give way to, oh, this is really someone not on our radar in terms of like, a clone or something, you know what I mean? Like I otherwise we'd be getting kind of like the internal narration that we normally get associated with Spider-Man. So all very good, again, intentional choices being made by the creators here that I thought really worked.
Yeah, I mean, I love the journal. It sounds like Norman's voice, and we know that like he has a history of writing these journals. I mean, there's that whole Osborn journal from the Clone Saga thing, and so like that was the immediate tip off for me that our speculation was right. It's also a smart choice for Joe Kelly to go like, hey, like if he's gonna be Spider-Man, we need a way to get inside that mask and inside the head of that person, because that's what you do in a Spider-Man comic. And we've like blasted Amazing Spider-Man runs recently for never including internal narration. And here Joe Kelly's doing it basically for Norman Osborn, and it allows us, inside his motivations. Now to jump like way ahead in this comic, but like to really connect all the pieces of this comic together, I also thought it was a brilliant flip on the narration that we've been getting from like the Peter/Ben that we got in the previous two issues, where it used all of the same words that he used, talking about like pain and disorientation and liberation and like a new life and stuff like that, but like rearranged in a different way to kind of show that like all of these three characters, Peter, Ben, and Norman, are all kind of going through a similar but different journey of like playing, I guess, like musical chairs with their lives. And I thought that was really neat. And then like jumping way ahead to the Peter in space section of this too, I thought that brilliantly opened with narration that was identical to the narration that we were getting from Ben in the previous two issues. And I think I had speculated in those issues that, the narration that we were getting in those issues was actually Peter in space. And we were kind of getting that. But it appears now, because we do get narration from Peter in space, and it starts identical to the one that we got in the Ben issues, but then it deviates. And so it's clever in that the clones start with the identical narration, and then it changes based on their journey. Yeah. And Peter's changes based on his, but Norman's doesn't start with it because he's not Peter Parker, but he's hitting on the same themes and creating this sort of like triptych of perspectives. I think is really clever, and I really am curious to see how these characters are, or whether they're drawn together by the end, or whether they start in the same place and we see those paths deeply fracture based on who they are as this goes on, as I guess I would suspect that they will. But it really does a great job like that. Just that little narration and that smart choice for people who are paying attention, or whether it's affecting you subconsciously, tightens what would be a story, like you said, people complaining about, oh, there's not enough Peter in this book. But it's like, no, like this is a three-hander. I think that narration was brilliant in how it handled that. So kudos again to Joe Kelly for a really smart narrative choice.
Now we've been kind of speculating about Ben Reilly and Chasm and all this for a couple of issues now, but now that we have that confirmed, do you have any specific thoughts about Ben Reilly and kind of this this role of, you pointed out 2 episodes ago, he basically threatened Peter, "I'm coming to take your life."
Yeah.
And that seems to be what he's doing here. Any thoughts on that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, first of all, I want to also echo that image of those 2 holes, kind of like first his eyes glow green, and then the swirling holes that kind of became emblematic of Ben's mind in the Beyond series, like reappearing as on the mask. That was terrifying. Like, as much as you might want to call like the chasm suit the sort of Mountain Dew of Spider-Man suits, it's not a very scary costume, I think. But that image of Peter's face melting away, I think, is pretty scary and upsetting stuff. And I think all the way back in the sort of like proper Wells run with Chasm, I had like long said, Peter needs a sort of like really personal foe to take that Venom spot where like he can effortlessly weave into his personal life. And this was what I was hoping for, and I don't know if you could do this again, but like this kind of like, I'm literally stealing your life is really great. And you even get like a very Venom like moment here where his anger and lashing out puts innocent people in harm's way, and then he realizes like, oh, like crap, like I need to not act like that, because I don't want to harm innocent people. Like you could give all of this to Venom and it would work the same way in the early 90s. So I'm really digging this. Can Joe Kelly redeem the sort of bungled introduction of Chasm? I don't know, but I'm hopeful. As for his motives, I guess we can like let's skip right to the sort of like meeting with Black Cat at that really dumb named bar. Like we get some interesting like revelations, but we don't really get the full picture. Like, is it that Ben wants to steal Peter's life? There's this line where he says, sometimes you have to get something to realize you don't want it. I thought that was kind of a Joe Kellyism where it's kind of like a little bit of a like too indirect to really get what he's saying.
Yeah.
But rereading it again, I think what he's saying is like, because he's referring to Norman with that line, and he's like, hey, that guy signed up to be Spider-Man, and I did that before, and look what it did to my life. So I'm not making that mistake again. I'm just stealing the Peter Parker part, and I'm going to enjoy that for what that is. But he's welcome to take all licks that come with being Spider-Man. And that's interesting to me. Like, I don't know that I fully understand why he wants to be Peter Parker, although I guess the job is cushy and he can kind of tell all the other people in Peter Parker's life to kind of F off, like he did to Mary Jane. But it's enough for me to start kind of like buying into why Ben is taking these actions.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I had not for a second questioned why would Ben want to be Peter? Like, I feel like we have, 30 years of comics that establish why that's the case. You know what I mean? And
as you're saying this, I feel very silly.
No, I'm not trying to make you feel silly, Dad. But yeah, I mean, like, specifically, why is this the plan, and why is he doing what he's doing now? That's not entirely apparent. You know what I mean? Like you can be Peter and not be working at whatchamacallit, the
Rand
Industries,
or putting on a boot and walking with a cane for an issue that mysteriously disappears.
Yeah, right. But again, like in the lineage of scenes that I thought were very clever and very well composed in this comic, the Ben and Black Cat scene, I think, is yet another one. Like, I just thought this was a really well done scene. I really liked the dynamic. I liked like Felicia kind of, interrogating Ben, but like, she never gets like over the top about it to scare him off. You know what I mean? Like, she's just like, what do you what's going on? And, he's just kind of brushing this all aside. Like, we know he's holding cards close to the vest, but we don't know all the cards yet. But like, we know something's going on, that, more to learn. just everything from like the redheads, are they genetic, or is stiffing the bill genetic? I mean, like these were just great little like throwaways, but like it created a great scene here. Like I really like, this was a favorite scene of mine in this issue. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was fun. You mentioned it's funny too. Like finally we know that like his interest in Janine is a genetic thing. Like the Parkers like redheads.
Yeah.
Like great.
And who could argue, right?
Yeah. And we're both married to redheads. Yeah, but it is okay. That's funny, but like he's also like, Felicia is asking all of the questions that like we were asking last review episode when we surmised this to be the case. Like is what Ben's doing a plan that he worked up with Peter? Now, okay, I think this is the only part to me that feels somewhat like a dodge to not answer the question, but I get it. He could play the cards, close to his chest, I don't know why he would play these cards close to his chest, but fair on him. It makes me feel like it is a plan they worked up that backfired or something like that, just because like I don't know why you would obfuscate about that if it wasn't the case.
Right.
But fair enough. I love, and you mentioned this in your recap, we finally get a scene that acknowledges 8 deaths of Spider-Man for the first time. Okay. That story is not a favorite of mine.
No.
Like when you do something dramatic like that, you'd hope that it's not just like lost in the wind. And I thought that way that he did it was really clever by saying like, hey, I felt Peter die during that, so I know he's not dead now. And I saw some people online being like, hey, that's never been an established thing for these clones. But actually, like, this isn't even no-prizing it, but like, they established the clone sense back in the Dark Web story when Peter actually expressed it to Ben about his death.
Yeah.
So like it's been going back at least that far, and I think if you're like something that goes back at least a run, then it's canon.
Yeah.
Like great. And then my other favorite detail about this is Ben drinking a beer.
Excuse me.
Because that's something clearly Peter wouldn't do. Ben seems like exactly the kind of Peter Parker that would be pushed to drink. And what a great reveal, too, when we finally do get the Norman reveal. It starts with him in his estate pouring liquor.
I'm having some Cavassier.
Yeah. Like, and that's so, like, what a nice touch. Like, beyond the whole, like, soda thing that we got in the first arc, that arc went to pains to reestablish that Peter doesn't drink alcohol.
Yep.
Right? He's drinking water. And here to like have both of the alternates like clearly distinguish themselves by drinking alcohol. Great. Like cool. Like Joe Kelly, keep going, man. Keep going.
Drunk Pete reunite, man. You know?
Absolutely.
Anyway. All right,
let's talk. Yeah, let's talk about really quickly about the Tombstone scene. We get introduction of a new villain who we're calling either RX or Prescription, and he's healing Shocker. I mean, like, kind of a weird place to introduce a new, I guess, villain of sorts. He's going to be on a cover in the next few issues, so he's clearly somebody,
right?
Whether we're meant to be speculating that or who he is or not, because it's a fully masked face. This book doesn't need more mysteries, so I'm going to leave that one alone. But I don't know what to think about the Hobgoblin thing here. He's clearly got some greater like plan in store. But I just wanted to comment again. This felt so refreshingly 1986 to me. Not just because that was the year I was born, but like for a comic like this to go out of its way to do this in a way that didn't feel super ratcheted in, I thought was really like a pleasure.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is how you build a universe and build a rogues gallery, and you know, I don't know specifically where this is going, but like, you know, we clearly established 2 issues ago that the new Shocker is is a pivotal character, and this kind of pushes that forward, even though like we're kind of making fun of Shocker again, but in a fun way. Stop taking PTO, Shocker. Like it's not, it's personal time off, but it's really not. Anyway,
let's get to Norman.
Yeah.
Like in his mission, so to speak, or the continuance of the dream. What did you think about like Norman's kind of stated mission as Spider-Man here? Do you buy it? How'd you like how it played out in this issue?
I do buy it. And maybe I'm giving in too easily to it, but like, again, this all works for me in the context of what we've been building towards. I mean, like it again, like I do kind of hate the fact that we had that, Spider Goblin story.
Yeah.
Because I really feel like that derailed this. Like this feels like a much more natural progression of what we were getting. And look, I know that we've already talked about this whole arc is going to go until about February, and that's not going to remotely align with issue 1000, but we've talked about 1000 being like, oh, it's gonna, all roads lead to a Goblin Osborn story, because that just seems to be what we do for major centennials and whatnot. But it's like kind of like I'm like thinking about the fact of like Norman in this like pursuit to redeem himself and to keep Peter's dream alive. I mean, man, what more poetic way for this to end, to him to die doing this? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yes. Like it's just, and it's not going to be 1000 probably, but this feels like a fitting next iteration of where we should be going with this Norman redeemed story. So this works for me. I don't question it. I know people will, but like I have been going with this now for some time, and I feel like this is the most logical and fitting next step for it. And it's really interesting to me. It's really interesting to me to watch Norman struggle with this, but also try and justify it to himself. Because like you could tell that he's convincing himself. He's not like I'm right and I'm the best and I'm doing this. He's not Otto, but
right.
At the same time, like there is that, Norman is, whether he's redeemed or not and free of sin or not, he's still a sociopath. And so like there's some like crazy in there, but like he's trying to justify this and trying to convince himself. And I thought this was everything about this. I loved it. I thought this was great stuff. I thought this was great comics. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Or maybe I am gonna sugarcoat it. I'm gonna double sugarcoat it.
It makes me think of that old like adage about like mob informants being the kind of like when you're so deep in and all it takes is a little bit of like push, and suddenly the person that is the most like devoted to the mob suddenly becomes the biggest informant,
right?
To the police, because they just have only like one like mode that they're stuck in, right? So you take a guy off from like wanting global domination and you flip him, like suddenly he's going to like put it all into this new mission that he has, however that ends up going. But like he says here, he saved my life. I will save his dream, his legacy. Can anyone blame me for choosing his over mine? That is a statement of a man who has left himself out of the picture.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about his dream, his legacy. Like, yes, this is also Norman Osborn, like, washing himself of his legacy, which maybe he doesn't deserve to do. But, like, if Norman Osborn can be redeemed, and if that is ultimately what happens in issue 1000 or whatever, like, you could say, hey, like, getting the marriage back together would be the ultimate victory in issue 1000. I think reforming Norman Osborn and having him die as Spider-Man is an even greater victory, because it proves that, like, and Norman uses the exact words here. Like he says, like, this city will have a Spider-Man. It will have hope, right? If you can get Norman Osborn to die believing in that idea and fully reform him, it means that Spider-Man can do anything. He can take his greatest foe and using the like power and inspiration of who he is, flip him. Like I can think of no better way to end the story of Spider-Man. Now I'm not saying 1,000 should end the story of Spider-Man, although you only get one issue 1,000. I can't imagine this book ever gets to 2,000 issues. Like the comics industry is still going strong. Who knows? I probably won't. We won't see it. Although unless they get back to three issues a month shipping, then maybe I'll see it. You know, I'm not going to do that math right now.
No.
But yes, I am. It's like 30 or 40 years from now. It would pay.
We're not going to see it. We're not going to see it. I mean, okay. God bless.
So you get one chance at that. What is the thing you do to get attention? Right. Or whatever, or to end the story proper in some definitive way where it'll continue on, sure. But like you're making a big point. Okay. Part of my French here, kids, cover your ears. That would be fucking awesome. Like I would so believe in the spirit of this book again. And even countering the whole idea of like Peter can't grow. Like, okay, fine. Arrest Peter's age. But if he can make like fucking movements to heal his greatest enemies, that is a book that is going to allow for change. I hope. I think that will be really awesome. And I think we've been sticking with this idea for over 100 issues. Yes, the Sins of the Goblin thing was a like rehash, repeat, whatever that we didn't need. And if you got your jollies doing that, fine. This is where we were headed, and I'm so glad that we're here.
I was going to say, I you know, we could speculate where they wanted to go with this when they first propositioned this whole idea of Norman, quote unquote, being redeemed. I don't know if it would be quite here, but like, this is, you know, even more than Zeb. Like I feel like this is the best we've moved with Norman since this whole thing began. Like I feel like this is going somewhere. I don't, you know, we'll find out if it's his death and ultimate redemption. I mean, the way you describe it, Dan, is beautiful, and I agree. Like I would love to see that, and I think it would summarize Spider-Man so much better than, you know, all of the attempts to like, what is Spider-Man? You know, like, what is this book about? What is this character about? Like that would summarize it in a way that, you know, I don't know Marvel is necessarily entirely interested in doing, but I would welcome it. You know, so, but like
it took 986 issues, but Norman Osborn is healed.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
yeah.
Like, yeah.
I just feel like, you know, this is like really, again, like this is this interesting stuff. Like, you know, and we were kind of talking about this a little bit off the air before we started, but like, you know, if you're concerned is with the fact that we're not getting quote unquote enough Peter as Spider-Man here, it's like, you know, this is very much the superior kind of inversion that we got, you know, in the initial stages of the Dan Slott run, which is like, this is all a commentary on Peter and the power of Peter as Spider-Man. It's just manifesting in a little bit of an off-kilter way. But like, this is what I've wanted to see them do with this character since they've went in this direction. So this was, you know, again, I love this stuff. I thought this was just perfect. Well, perfect.
Even
perfect's
when
a hard
Norman
word, but it was great.
Even when Norman and Ben are fighting on the rooftop, it's all about Peter because all they're doing is comparing each other to Peter.
Yeah.
Right. Like I love the beat where Norman, you know, talks about like, oh, you can't even make jokes as good as Peter. And it's like, that is a loaded statement because like he's been on the receiving end of those jokes for 60 years, you know, like what a cool way to go with that. Okay. So moving on, because we could talk about that forever. This does end on like an introduction of what seems to be a new villain or maybe just like, you know, like a flash in the pan assassin that's there to take out Norman through the most convoluted Rube Goldberg machine of sniper,
right?
Targets or whatever ever. And this assassin character says "Sic semper monstrum," and for those of you who know, "Sic semper tyrannis" was what was shouted after the death of Julius Caesar and Abraham Lincoln. John Wilkes Booth shouted it, and it means death to tyrants. And here, swapping out tyrannus for monstrum means death to monsters. And so, I'm guessing that's how this person or this assassin is labeling.
And this was my Seinfeld
Norman
reference that I missed in my recap Dan, from the show about nothing. Damn it. You got me.
There you go. Okay, so that's who that is. Let's move on to the second half of this book, which I think will go by a lot quicker. Is Peter in space? That would be, I guess, a Muppet Show reference there. But I thought this was one of the most stunning things I've seen Larraz do. I mean, I've seen him do space in the X-Men books and in Gods, but like suddenly thrusting Spider-Man into that territory was just really fun stuff to read. Mark, I was spoiled by this in the previews, I will admit. But what did it feel like for you turning the page and suddenly being like, here?
I mean, first of all, welcome back, Pepe Larraz. I'm sorry that you were insulted by my cooking visual joke on Blue Sky a couple of months ago. You're still the GOAT on this book right now. So let that be said. No, this was just great. And it was both terrifying. Like I originally was like thinking of like, Ridley Scott Alien meets Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like this was just capturing all of the perfect visual motifs that it needed to capture.
Oh, that image of Peter in the cave, like eating that animal with his eyes all bugged out and his hair. Like I've never seen anything like that in a Spider-Man comic.
No. This was completely wild and completely unhinged, but beautiful and terrifying. Obviously, we kind of knew this was coming. I mean, I didn't read the previews, but like I was expecting this would be aligned with how we would be reintroduced. There's still a lot that we need to understand about like why is Peter here, and of course, like to quote Ben Reilly, like why isn't he really leaving? I mean, like we keep talking about his need to be stronger and all that, which we can talk about in a few minutes. But like, this was just a great way to just dive right into this crazy story.
Yeah, and after the first half of this book, which is very like dialogue heavy, like it's a lot of characters talking, going to like several silent pages of just pure visuals. And again, Larraz's visuals, like I think is really excellent. I love the like 12 panel grid pages after that big splash reveal of him in the cave of like what has Peter been doing in that time since we saw him that got him to the point of eating that animal and having a beard.
Yeah.
And like even in a moment as like gross and haunting like as that sequence is, it's still very funny and like classic Parker Luck stuff where like he like finally has these victories of like getting water and then he vomits. He gets the plant, he vomits.
Yeah.
He gets the animal, he vomits. Like it still feels like a Spider-Man comic, especially for those of us who like enjoy seeing Peter Parker suffer, which I'll raise my hand for that. Like I'm always in for a Peter Parker getting the short end of the stick in these things. And then this is, I'm sure, a combo between Kelly and Larraz doing this, but like in that grid, showing the growth of Peter's hair and loss of muscle mass, like on the page, is so detailed. Like, man, like there's nothing Larraz can't do. I mean, it takes me back to the like I think it was a 12 panel grid that opened issue 1 of this comic of Peter, applying for jobs, and I think it's meant to be a direct parallel to that, where he showed his face getting slowly beaten up over time. And like, more of this, please. You know, like love the attention to visual detail. You know, I'm still weirded out by all the Nico Demo stuff and the Prince of Steel Silk, but like, I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt that it will be something, or that Peter is caught up in someone else's story that he shouldn't be a part of. Like, that feels very Peter Parker too, that all of this is just a mistake. But I was very on board for this sequence.
For sure. So let's talk about the beacon. Because you're gonna blow my mind, because I guess Xanto Starblood, he's not a new character, huh, Dan?
No, he's not. Mark, have you read Wolverine and the X-Men?
I have not, Dan. So educate me, friend.
Oh, well, it's a really, really great comic series, kind of like a comedy ensemble, and a classic introduction of a lot of new teen X-Men characters. Favorites like Glob Herman make their debut there, I believe. And I just read it last year for the first time, as I've been kind of catching up on the X-Men comics and comics from like the 2010s and aughts that I just think is a golden age for Marvel. And this is another one of those. And Nick Lowe edited it. And we know Nick Lowe has a lot of fondness for his time working on X-Men books, which resulted in, maybe stuff we didn't love in the 8 Death storyline and stuff like that. But I can only imagine here he was like, oh, there's an opportunity for me to bring back this villain, Dr. Xanto Starblood, whose whole thing from that great series where Wolverine replaces Professor X as the head of, the school for the gifted youngsters after Cyclops murders Professor X during the
AVX.
AVX storyline.
That old chestnut.
And Xanto Starblood, he's like this alien, but he believes in like science at all costs, and so that fits perfectly here. And actually, I think it kind of works as a perfect Spider-Man villain, where most of Spider-Man villains are about like putting science above humanity for personal gain. And so I thought it was a really great inclusion here. You could know about Wolverine and X-Men or not in Mark's case, and I think it would still work just fine.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, this is a good parallel. I thought that Starblood is. Yeah, let's keep talking about it, because I was gonna say, like, this is again more good logical stuff to kind of. I mean, we don't I feel like if we could summarize Peter and what is driving Peter right now, it's get stronger, which is a little vague. But that was.
I think it's meant to be vague.
Yes. I mean, it's what Hellgate sent him here to do, I guess. And I don't know if it's like fear of Hellgate beating him or Peter taking the credo to heart or what, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, like the question I have is, does Peter know more about this than we do?
Yeah.
I don't. My current feeling is no. He got punched to the other side of the universe, woke up, and there's this weird Nicodemus that's showing up to him in like visions. But the only instruction he was given is get stronger, and so he's going to pursue that. And my assumption is that he's operating under the idea that if I return to Earth, Hellgate's coming back, and I'm going to have to face him, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And so he's hell-bent on doing what it takes to get stronger. And that includes like shutting out all the other things in his life. I mentioned earlier, there's an interesting moment with the flashback later in the book, and it's here. Peter has this like momentary flashback to like reading sci-fi stories with Aunt May that he has, and he quickly shuts his mind down, saying now is not the time for this. Whether that means he doesn't want the sort of nostalgia coming back in, or it's going to slow down his quest. But I thought it was interesting that he's actively engaging with his memories and pushing them away in some form.
Is that why he thinks Two Boots is good pizza? I mean,
yeah, that's right. He's forgotten about DeFara's. I also wanted to, we're getting into the idea of like what is power and how does Peter attain it. And we've gotten like Peter's the Goblin before. And again, I wish like that didn't necessarily happen. Not that I'm opposed to a storyline doing that. But we have Norman the Spider-Man right now. And a Peter who was hell-bent on achieving greater power while pushing these kind of feelings out of his mind. And, maybe even including like what great power means, via Uncle Ben. But I found it curious that the first image we see when he's talking about that is Xanto Starblood, like grabbing a beaker and it exploding and Peter dodging out of the way. And it reminded me immediately in its framing of how the Goblin got his powers, all the way back in issue 39, where that's revealed. And I don't believe in coincidences with Joe Kelly anymore.
Yeah.
Like, guy is super detailed. I'm probably overreading it, but I did want to like put it out there that like, like the path that Peter might be heading down, power at all costs, which he kind of forgoes here, and that may not actually be his mantra, is the one that leads his villains to their downfall, right? And so I wanted to just kind of flag that.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking in those terms, Dan, but that's a good flag. So put a pin in that.
Sure. Well, let's talk about Peter's motives for not returning home. I mean, they give him a sort of like, not cop out, but like a sort of like, oh, it's not personal because, the events of Imperial are going on right now, which is, if you don't know, Jonathan Hickman is writing this big space redefining story of cosmic Marvel that hopes to do what he did, to fix the X-Men and make them interesting again for Marvel Cosmic. I haven't read any of it yet, but like apparently all of space is in a giant war of some kind. And so apparently Peter, is not able to return home, although Starblood says unless... So there's clearly some way for him to get home.
Right. What
that will require, we don't know. That could be Captain Kintsugi related. We will find out. But even then, Peter says, he seems reluctant to do so. He says soon. I put out there my theory of why he's not wanting to return home. Did you get anything more out of this about why Peter may not want to go back to Earth, or do you feel like that's a mystery that's still kind of floating out there?
I don't have further speculation beyond what we've already gotten, what we've kind of talked about here so far.
I did want to remind listeners that he did get a vision during 8 Deaths of Spider-Man, issue 65, and we were told those visions won't necessarily come true, but there was a vision of this giant shadowy character that we have since found out is Hellgate, standing over the body of, I believe it was Spider-Boy and Miles, or maybe it was Miles and Gwen, both dead. And so I wonder if like maybe that image has come back to him in any way, or if that connection has yet to be made. So anyway, let's Mark, what do you think about freeing the prisoners? This kind of like whole action sequence that plays out that gives us a new suit and all of this stuff.
I mean, again, well-paced scene. The action is great here between, kind of Peter and Starblood trying to outsmart each other here. I appreciated, we talked about this earlier, the bookend nature of Peter kind of just happening upon this major turning point because of his quote unquote insomnia. And then it's the classic Peter conundrum, I think, in terms of like his own morality and ethics, more or less taking over and making him do something that would seem brash or irrational. Like, he's got a good gig here. We could talk about whether it should be a good gig or not, but he's got a good gig here. But because of his own morality, he can't see it through, which is classic Peter. So, everything, again, it's all of these things are just like, they're being laid out in a way where I'm like, yeah, I'm there. I agree with this. This is what Peter would do. It all feels very rooted in classic Spider-Man, even though it is on the page totally bonkers and insane. You know what I mean? So like kudos to that for doing something completely bonkers and being it rooted in Spider-Man mythology.
I love that Kelly made another dig at the tech class in Silicon Valley.
Yep.
Here, and that like pets get beds, animals get cages is such a creepy line.
Yeah.
That like you could never go work for that guy after he said that, even if you did choose to be a pet.
Right.
What I love that Peter says, I choose dignity. Like, because like, yeah, truly, like if you went to go work for that guy, you've totally handed in your dignity. Like anybody that's heading the Department of War right now. Anyway, great. The flexi suit, cool design for a Spider-Man suit. Probably one of the cooler designs for a Spider-Man suit we've gotten in regards to like new major suits or even minor suits. You know, like I'm thinking about the like Threats and Menaces suit that was like all gray, and even the Osborn designed spider suit from the Wells run. Like as cool as some of the elements of that were, it wasn't as visually fantastic as this. Even if it's trading on the sort of like imagery of the technarchy from the New Mutant stuff. I don't know if you've read New Mutants, Mark.
I have not. Sorry.
Another one of those Dapper Dan Gavassan digs deep into X-Men so he can try to make sense of it. But you don't need to know much about it except that like it's a race of like of people or aliens or mutants or whatever that are tech based, and here it seems like they've got the tech part but not the intelligence part or the sentience involved, and so you've got sort of this like technology Venom suit, if you will. And yeah, man, I thought this fight was so cool. That moment where he does the wham of Star Blood like into the ground is like instantly classic, where he's like Dragon Ball Z posing, floating in the air. Like, just so good. Has anybody ever captured motion the way that Larraz does in this book? Stunning. Yeah. Stunning.
Rhetorical question, but no.
No. The answer is no. The answer is no. And then we get the sort of like big, I mean, on another point, artists hate these big pages with 1 million characters in them. And then not only do we get a page with 1 million prisoners in it, each of their designs is more interesting than the next.
Yeah.
So we've got all these aliens, like the only book that can do this many interesting things with alien creatures I can think of is like Saga.
Yeah.
But here it is in Spider-Man. So, including Rocket and something that we've been told is called Symbi. Anybody designs jump out to you on that page?
Not specifically. I mean, I think some of these things were kind of, I don't want to say spoiled, but like, I mean, certainly Symbi was kind of spoiled for me.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see Rocket. I'm sure you're going to be like, well, it was in the solicitations, but like, I was so like, oh, Rocket's in the story. That's fun. So let's see what
it wasn't in the solicitations. I mean, we've seen images of a raccoon, but whether it was actually Rocket is something else. And I like that he jokes like, oh, another Peter here to save the day, So I thought that was a great way to end it. And, the book, I feel like this book could rapidly get very overcrowded with ideas and plots and all of that stuff. And it feels very like maintained right now, but we suddenly got an introduction of like, at least I think like 2 other supporting characters here.
Right.
But it'll be nice to have Peter kind of bantering with someone as fun as Rocket, in this book, if that's what we end up getting. So I'm very on board. All right. And because it's a 975, we've got these backups. We're not going to go into any detail on these because I don't think they really deserve it. The big one is a story called Rapid Return, which is a follow-up on a story, I believe, from the Giant Size issue that we got earlier in the year. And that story was from Chip Zdarsky and Cafu. I don't know if that story made any impression on you, Mark, or if this one does either. Any thoughts?
I mean, just the return of Boomerang. I mean, we'll see where this goes, but like, I never liked his death during, what was it, Sinister War, that he kind of got like...
Moreland sucked the life out of him.
I mean, let's get Fred Myers back, folks. But no other comments beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, I like this character of Rapid. I think it's a neat power set of like he can create like time bubbles, but he's limited to where he uses them. And his I think it's his father who is dying in the hospital, and so he always has to maintain. Anytime he uses his powers, he's pulling it away from his father's limited time on Earth. Like that's a really cool concept, and I really liked it in that giant size issue, even if it is very Spider-Man tangential. This, to me, felt like an inclusion from out of nowhere in a true inventory story. I mean, It's not even Chip Zdarsky or Cafu. It's Saladin Ahmed.
Right.
Like, I feel like kind of has, like, didn't his Daredevil run just wrap up? Doesn't he have better things to be doing, than backups here? Like, that is, like, picking up someone else's character? Maybe this is the new, like, comic that he's launching in Marvel after Daredevil, which... We don't really have an announcement about the future of that comic either,
right.
Which is weird. Like, has Daredevil ever been canceled before?
No,
I don't know.
There's no way. Yeah.
I don't think so either, but, like, this didn't belong in this comic, but okay, fine.
Yep. Anything on the other two backups in this, Dan?
Spider-Man Age is really fun, and you know what? Like, let Lee Gatlin do one of these in every year. Like a fun thing. I love his designs for all the Marvel characters, and this was funny and forgettable and not canon. And who cares? It was really enjoyable. This is the kind of thing you want in a backup to be like an amusing thing with cool designs. Fine. As for the final one, The City with Spider-Man, what even is this? Did they just have a piece of art lying around in the offices that they're like, we got to do something with this and we need to fill 2 pages?
And menaces.
What is this? It's literally a spread of Spider-Man doing a variety of things around New York City. Was there a narrative flow I was supposed to get from this? I don't know. I'm already saying too much about it, but like, I don't know why you even. What do you do with this? Where did this come from?
Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? I don't know, Dan.
What with no better words could we end this discussion than those? Mark, let's get to our grades on this issue.
You want me to go first? I'm gonna.
Yeah, go ahead. You seem eager.
Yeah, I'm eager. I'm gonna give this an A-, Dan. I really enjoyed this comic.
I'm there too, A-. I think I was in solid B territory before I reread it for this review and talking about it with you. I had a lot of fun with this comic.
Exactly.
And that's got to be worth something.
Yeah. I mean, fun is fun, Dan. There's no way around it. But with that in mind, that brings us to the end of this episode. But we want to thank you, the listeners and viewers, for tuning in to this episode of The Amazing Spider Talk. This podcast exists because of the support of our listeners on Patreon, where for only $4.99 a month, $3 less than this comic, but generally the cost of a new comic, you can help support our show's existence while getting early episodes, including these reviews, the same week the comics release, exclusive artwork, and a ton of other bonuses.
Yeah, if you value what we consider smart comics criticism and historical analysis, we hope you'll consider supporting us on Patreon. Of course, we're a little high on our own supply. What we do on the show is admittedly niche. Still, if you find our Spider-Man commentary and community that provides theories like the Captain Kintsugi one, we can only continue doing what we do with your support on Patreon.
High on our own supply, but game recognized game, Dan. Thank you to everyone who supports us in our work, but a special thanks to our newest members, Eric F. and Thomas Trent. If you want to join their ranks, please go to AmazingSpiderTalk.com and click on the Patreon button to sign up to join the club.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, and thanks to their support and of our other patrons, we are able to maintain our excellent production team. Rick Coast edited this podcast episode, and Alex Galucki, and actually myself, edited the video version of the show, which is available on YouTube. Please subscribe. Our artwork is handcrafted by artists Ron Friend, Sal Buscema, and Nick Cagnetti. And lastly, Rylan Bojack, Tony Thaxton, and Spider Madge, and Josh Sutton produced our animated introduction and theme songs. So, Mark, Until we convince Peter Parker to have a beer with us, what's our motto?
I mean, I kind of feel like you drinking and Peter drinking are
it's about synonymous.
Yeah, it's pretty synonymous.
I'm a one-drink drunk.
Yeah, all good. With great podcasts, there must also come the amazing Spider Talk.
Don't miss the next